And Metroid's history with Nintendo is really weird. I know all of us, I'm sure a lot of us like correlate Samus's fame to to Smash Bros, and therefore she's like Nintendo royalty. But in reality, Metroid was considered kind of a failure of a franchise. It didn't really
Right.
go anywhere until Super.
Well,
And a lot
yeah.
of people don't know
I
that.
mean, Metroid games were selling hundreds of thousands, which, it wasn't bad when they did, when they didn't do multi-platform releases. I mean, one of the great things that we've had in this age where they release it on both PC and a console gaming device is that you can sell more units of the game that way. A lot of game franchises that sold multi-console sold more units. It happened with, BioShock compared to the previous System Shock games. I mean, System Shock was originally a niche horror game in the first person on PC. Well, for PC gamers, it was a real niche. BioShock, which is the spiritual successor, was less of one. And now some games, such as Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers, those sold, even though they were just Nintendo, they sold millions back in the NES days. They were the cool game that everyone should try and get during the late 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every Nintendo Power I got that my brother and I had for 5-6 years. It's like the number one games were always Super Metroid or A Link to the Past.
Yeah, and Alex, part of what Super Metroid was is that it was somewhat of a difficult game to play. It was somewhat of a darker type of game to play. I mean, Super Mario Brothers with the music and the atmosphere in those games during the NES days, those are pretty lighthearted. Same with Legend of Zelda. It looks goofy. It sounds, lighthearted with the music, and all that comes together with, in contrast with Metroid, which sounds darker and it just sounds darker. I mean, Stellar Blade right now is selling pretty well, but I don't think Stellar Blade has quite the dark tone that Metroid had. If you know what I mean, Alex. Like, I do feel that there are some games that are female led that do decent.
I don't think I don't think that a female led game in the modern era is a problem, or not that it was ever a problem in the first place, because when it was revealed that Samus was actually a human woman and not a robot,
right?
Everyone was like, "What?" And that was a big thing back then. But that was way back in the 80s, and you had like zero female characters because even a lot of the male characters were
even then it wasn't necessarily a female, it was a choice. Even in going to the 90s, it was often a choice between playing as a male or female character. Super Mario Brothers 2, which a lot of people don't want to mention, a lot of people don't like Super Mario Brothers 2, but you could play as Princess Peach as one of their choices in Super Mario Brothers 2. But a lot of people didn't like the exploration design and different mechanics of Mario 2 compared to the first
otherwise
one.
you had to go all the way back to like the original Final Fantasy. The white mage is the only it's the white mage and the black belt. It's like those are the only two characters in the only two female characters, and that's a choice,
right? And that's NES too.
Yeah, and even then, like a bunch of other games by comparison would be Dragon Warrior, because a lot of RPGs were doing that at the time, where it's just, traditionally, here's the hero, you're male, and you're going through your adventure. You have to really find more obscure things like, or infamous in this case, like Alien 3.
Yeah, like not even many of the, and also you had the Alien games where you were playing as Ripley, but it was a perspective and you couldn't see it. And those, of course, were the niche PC games, like floppy disk games. You put the floppy disk into the old PC. Yeah, so
it's crazy how advanced the Famicom was compared to the Nintendo the NES that we got. It's crazy.
But the NES is solid state cartridges, so they can be pretty durable.
Yeah, they were durable and loaded immediately, but they also took away our save states because the original NES Metroid Famicom game had saves, just like Legend of Zelda did, but they took away because they hate us. I guess I don't know. I don't know why they took away.
I will say that the floppy disks were somewhat comparable to the NES, not the SNES. The SNES at least had a few multiple megabytes, but the NES cartridge solid state cartridges didn't have all that much data that they stored on each NES cartridge at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it did, because the Famicom was actually a PC. It wasn't the same kind of way a console is. The Famicom was an actual PC with an operating system, and you put in discs so as to not use up too much hard drive space on it. So some of the save things was the data that you could have on the actual Famicom hard drive storage. And there was a certain amount on the SNES, but it's solid state computing. It's a little different, but solid state computing is getting better today.
Oh, substantially. Could you imagine if we had like an actual, could you imagine if games came on a solid state cartridge like the Super Nintendo, but with modern technology, how big we could still make them and have instant loading because there wouldn't be any. It'd be crazy.
You didn't have to read a certain area on the disc. Yeah, that'd be great. But it's just that a solid state is a little tougher to break, but it, generally speaking, for a long time held less than the spinning hard disk did. But solid state has its advantages in that it's tough, it's rugged.
Mm-hmm.
So, but right here, these are the lead programmers, Yoshio Sakamoto and Makoto Kano, and one of the guy on the right is the music composer, and the left is the lead programmer. So it took him 6 months, so there was quite a delay. They were expecting to release Super Metroid earlier in the SNES run, but it got delayed by quite a while. So there was about 6 months for just to get started. That was the 6-month delay for the start of development. Then the development was 2 years. So it ended up being at the end part of SNES, where near the end of 1994, they would start releasing the Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn. So the delays made this game a little late, considering it was an SNES game.